we discussed public employee discipline dismissal release, conference with labor negotiators for NTA and CSEA, conference with labor negotiator for NUMA unrepresented supervisors and contracted management. And we discussed the superintendent's contract and his performance evaluation. No action was taken. Please join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would ask for someone to make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Member Preciado moves. Member Rodriguez seconds. Please vote.
There we go.
5 ayes. Thank you. Superintendent's report.
Thank you, President Thomas, members of the board, ladies and gentlemen. I have a few items just to remind everyone on the board. The first item is the CSBA conference will be November 29th to December 1st in San Francisco. I was just curious if anyone from the board's wanting to attend that. I know Shar and I are planning to attend, and I think this is the first year Shar is able to attend and get the training specific to her role, which is very unique. So you don't have to answer now, but just let us know if you're planning on attending. Let Shar know so we can make those arrangements. You're planning?
I think in the past we have felt that because it's in San Francisco, it's a good conference to go to because there's no additional cost in terms of lodgings, that type of thing. And regardless of who's on the board.
Please use your mic.
Oh, I'm sorry. And regardless of who is on the board, I think we want to encourage the whole board to go. So I would think that we would put down the 5 for whoever it is. We have an election coming up. We would make sure that those people on the board would go. So rather than identifying as being an individual name.
Mm-hmm. I think we decided not to approve any travel or conferences for the board because of the budget situation. Mm-hmm. So unless board members are willing to pay their own way, I don't think we can go.
What is the cost of
the cost is usually about $400 or $500
per person?
Yeah, we said
the whole conference.
We said in line with what was happening that we were not going to pay for travel or lodging unless we paid for it ourselves for the time being.
You can also go one day. It can be a one-day thing. You don't have to go all 3 days.
We can share the information with the board, you guys know.
But I mean, we cannot charge, the district cannot pay for our conference attendance.
Agreed.
Although I think if we find any extra money and we want to adjust the agenda, the budget, that's something we could talk about in the future.
Okay.
When does the reduction of price go away?
This Friday, August 3rd.
Yeah.
Okay. The next item is, unless there's more questions about that, I'm sorry to interrupt. We will be having a follow-up FICMAT visit at no cost to us because we actually paid for it already on September 7th. There's no cost to the district, and they're going to come back and assess our progress on implementing the recommendations that were included in the last report. So I just wanted you to be aware of that. I know that was something that the board member Thomas had brought forth to us, and we took advantage of it. Good. So they're coming. A couple more updates, and then I'll come to a couple of things I want to discuss with you. I have scheduled a meeting with the Kidango leadership, so that's in the works, and I should be coming back soon with just how that partnership's going, how we can strengthen that partnership. A couple of things coming. The board the district leadership team retreat is on Friday from 8 to 10:30 that we invited the board to attend if you're able to attend any portion of that. That's really going to be the portion where I share with the principals and management the change model, the continuous improvement model, and just some leadership research, and definitely welcome to have the board there, and certainly board president, or if one of you wants to speak on behalf of the board, we would welcome that. And again, on August 20th, we're going to have a short welcome for all teachers, and I'd also like either the president or one board member to make some comments on behalf of the board as a welcome to teachers at that. We'll send you those dates as well, but I know there was we had to make a correction on the invite that was sent to you, so it is on the 10th, not on the 9th. So just clarification. And on the horizon, I'm starting this new section of my report is really on the horizon, which is upcoming board meetings and what's kind of in the ingredients for that next board meeting. On the 21st, we'll have a board workshop. I would like to do a board workshop relative to updating the strategic plan. We've added more information into section into Strategic Imperative 2 around FCMAT. We might have more information about that, as well as imperative number 3, which is communication, and trying to beef that up, including enrollment strategy, enrollment committee that we have with our bargaining units. And we're also looking for some additional staff reports from finance relative to this progress monitoring idea that the board wants to see, kind of the percentage of budget. Are we on track, off track, behind? So Lowell's been working with me on that. And underneath that kind of imperative 3, I am looking closely now at how we enroll students in our district. I'm trying to assemble a team right now, Amy Black, Letty, Bill Witten, a few other folks, to help us really look at how, first of all, can we improve our online enrollment and get away from paper pencil? Also, can we make it easier for returning parents to enroll and stay enrolled instead of having to fill out a giant packet? Is there just updates we could provide? And studying how can we improve it overall. I know that it's come to my attention there's several people that wait a long time to hear back from us, and I worry that any delay in getting back to people, we end up losing enrollment. So those are some things we're looking at. So we're going to be looking at kind of a deep analysis of how's it working and what's the best way to look at that. And just looking at other models of how it's done so it's more consistent and customer friendly. So those are all the things I wanted to share with you. I don't know if you have any comments or direction for me on anything.
Okay.
Okay, that concludes my report.
Okay, next we move on to public comment on non-agenda items. Ms. Parks?
Hi, I was just kind of wondering where the June warrants were. They weren't a part of the packet.
Yeah.
No. So I thought, so we don't go back and forth. We give the community their 3 minutes to speak, and that's it, because then we're interrupting.
I'm just asking where the June
Okay, that's it.
That's it.
Okay, thank you.
So then it's up to staff to decide whether or not they want to
The board president's prerogative is to ask direct staff to respond to the employee. I would suggest that you get back to Ms. Parks by email. Thank you. Okay. Next, we move on to old business 8.1, the MOU with Bologna for teens, kids and teens.
Yes, good evening. I wanted to note that I do have an amended copy. We had some questions there was some confusing language in the published MOU, so we've got copies in the back of the room and also at the dais for you. The amount hasn't changed, but I do want to clarify that there was a couple of typos about the number of Title I schools. So there are 5. And not 4, and so that change wasn't made, and it is now made. And also some clarity around item number 9 on the MOU that speaks to the total amount for the Title I schools, which is $88,000. And that's the total with $44,000 for each semester. A little bit about this item, if you recall, in our LCAP last year, we wanted to provide some after-school services for our students. So we're doing a hybrid part this year, so that we're having a straightening our partnership with Ohlone College and providing some after-school support in intervention for our students in mathematics and language arts and some drop-in tutoring. But additionally, we want to also, in accordance with providing something for all of our students in the area of science and some of the wonderful work that they do with STEAM. And so that will be for all sixth grade students at all of our elementary schools. So it's a two-part where this is outlined in the LCAP. And there will also be additional opportunities for our teachers to provide after-school targeted intervention also. But we wanted to get an early start, so we heard you, and this would be slated to start right at the beginning of the school year.
Any questions by board members? Ms. Crocker.
We noticed that there was some money that was not spent last year in terms of the after-school, so this will take care of that problem?
Yes, that's our expectation. I think going back to what the superintendent mentioned earlier about some more targeted progress monitoring, this is part of the plan. And so we're starting early. There's still some monies in this LCAP. This is not all of the monies that are targeted to after-school support for students, but this is part of it. We're going to do a hybrid of teacher-directed, but also contracting with an organization such as Ohlone College for our students.
Thank you.
Mr. Preciado?
I was going to say, thank you. I think this is great. This is one of the pieces that we're pushing, and I'd like to move to approve.
I'll second.
The motion's been made by Mr. Preciado. Ms. Crocker has seconded. Please vote. Five ayes. Thank you. Next, Big Ideas Math. I believe we have a speaker on this, a request to speak. Ms. Parks?
I didn't see any invoice or contract for this $42,000. And it did say that this was the reason for this increase over the $793,000 that you approved in June was due to an increased enrollment, and without seeing that invoice, I don't even know what targeted age or what you're using. There wasn't any specification as far as where you're expecting to have that increased enrollment. And then one of the caveats in that original purchase was you were only charged a 4% shipping cost. And so not seeing any of this, I don't know whether that 4% carried through. And again, have no idea of what is even being purchased here.
Thank you. Does anyone have a comment before I ask a question?
Go ahead and ask a question if you want, whatever you want to.
Yeah, I'm wondering too about that, where the extra came from and why.
Yes. When we did the ordering and brought the item to the board, as you know, there are shifts throughout the district of students, and so K-12 we did see a change in the nature of the student population across the district, and so this speaks to it. Additionally, there's also the need to adjust for tax, and so that also speaks to it. But we could not just go ahead and do the added a cost to this. We needed to come back to the board, as you had already approved a ceiling. I do want to say that in terms of consumables, this is year one of 8 years of consumables and access to the online. Certainly we have the whole packet of the whole invoice that we can certainly share with the board, but this is basically the difference to close the gap of the shift in students. At our upper grade, at our high school, we have textbooks. At the lower grades, we have the consumables, and so it was a K-12 in addition to tax. We did also have the break on the shipping, and so that did continue. That was something that our department did really a nice job with brokering with the publisher and giving us the break on shipping as well.
So since we had approved the budget, there has been a shift in the number of students that we
The
expect
types
to
of
enrolled? How is that working?
the types of students. So textbooks were a little bit more expensive at the high school versus a child who's just going to have the consumable. And then also there was a shift in the tax. So there's also a difference in tax. But the shipping, we did get a break on the shipping. So we have the complete
I think in a
invoice.
case like this, we should really have an adjusted proposal that shows the adjustments in each piece, if it's a tax piece or if it's more expensive books. And so it's like so the board has information, because there's no information other than, well, we need to approve $44,000 more, but part of it is tax, part of it is a change in enrollment. I think we are not kind of handling this agenda item like we should.
It's a breakdown of the costs.
Member Crocker?
Yeah, I also checked with Ms. Sanchez, Salinas, excuse me. Checked with Ms. Salinas concerning the cost of that versus getting the right to do our own printing, and indicated to me that it's a lot cheaper for them to do the printing than for us, which is counterintuitive for me. I always thought it was cheaper for us, but even with the shipping cost. So my concern has always been consumables, because having been a teacher in a classroom, when the money is short, you don't have the ability to print out. So these are consumables that are paid for 8 years, this contract. And so it will be the one expense for 8 years, which I'm excited to see some sort of a coordinated math program K through 12. I think it's marvelous. So thank you.
Okay.
I will move to accept.
Ms. Crocker moves, Mr. Rodriguez seconds. Please vote. Five ayes. Thank you. Okay. Next, we move on to 8.3, agreement with ADIS Architects for a district-wide facilities master plan and deferred maintenance plan. And we have a speaker on this, Ms. Parks.
People want to talk somewhere along the line. So this one, I have to say that I was concerned when I looked through the PowerPoint presentation. I would hope that the plan would be to do an assessment, to forecast enrollment, look at traffic patterns, utilize the utilization of the current facilities, and the student capture rate. I think that was quite surprising when you saw that earlier this year. I'm sure that we will see different models. I would hope we would see different models when the plans come forward. But once you have that assessment, then that's when you should be kicking in the community engagement component. Some issues the community will be looking at: is there a true need for a new school in Area 3? Since Cherry is a traffic thoroughfare in the morning, what would be the additional impact if that school were to be built? Would this drive a closure of another school? Would the district consider another restructuring of the Birch Grove schools? All impact of changes need to be spelled out. Which team building exercise, which is the way I took the way those PowerPoint presentations were presented, that's what they reminded me of, was team building exercises, not true input sessions. Shown in the PowerPoint aren't going to be addressed. Are these meetings going to be like the financial input meetings, touted as input but truly just informational? Or are these community engagement meetings being used to manipulate the community into supporting another bond measure? I hope ADIS is going into this endeavor to provide the best master facilities plan and deferred maintenance plans without being unduly influenced.
Thank you. Board?
Can someone speak to?
We do have ADIS
Yeah.
here to present.
Oh,
Yeah.
good, please.
Yeah.
Anne, would you please introduce yourself and your team that's with you? And I know you have a short presentation. That will be short.
Thank you, Superintendent Sanchez and Board of Trustees. I'm Anna Harrison. I'm with ADIS Architects. I'm the Senior Design Strategist in charge of stakeholder engagement. And I brought with me my colleague, Shorey, and she is our assistant project manager.
Is her microphone on?
Maybe I need to get closer.
I just want to make sure it's on because we're recording. Okay, thank you.
So I have a short presentation for you. I'm going to use my notes so that it keeps me on task and going quickly. So the stakeholder engagement does focus on the qualitative data that feeds into a facility's master plan, the quality of the educational experience. In addition to that, we are collecting quantitative data. So we look at every site, we do site assessments, we look at the demographers' reports, we look at site usage, all of the quantitative data. So both of these pieces, qualitative and quantitative, come together to form your facility's master plan. The focus of my presentation today actually is on the stakeholder engagement piece, not the facilities assessment piece. Is this my clicker? Mm-hmm. Let's see.
But facilities assessment is part of the work, correct?
Absolutely, and it actually goes on concurrently, and it actually comes in right before every meeting with a campus. We are on site, so we're very literate about what the campus is when we're doing our engagement. Let me see if I can do this. Okay. So the goals of stakeholder engagement are both universal and customized, and we use the 3 E's: engage, explore, and envision. Engaging with a diverse group of stakeholders, teachers, students, administrators, leaders, staff, gives us a diverse viewpoint, and we hear all voices. And then together we explore the intersection between district facilities, and the district educational vision. So we're looking at your district as a STEAM district. We know you want socio-emotional learning to be very prominent. And facilities do play a role in these, so we explore those intersections. And then together we envision the transformation of the district based on a set of guiding principles that the stakeholders develop through our interactive workshops. One of the workshops that we propose starting with is a district facilities visioning session. This is the stakeholders from the entire district. An example of this is a stakeholder engagement facilities visioning that we did for the Eastside Union High School District. This is a little sample of some of the workshop materials and the preparation. And yes, it is like planning a wedding. Here's some images of a student, and maybe you recognize the gentleman in the lower right, working on one of our activities, which is what are the qualities of an ideal learning environment to you? Here you see cross-functional teams working on filling out their vision statements. Here you see cross-functional teams presenting their vision boards that they've developed to describe the physical attributes of the ideal learning environment. And then here you see a visual representation of our data crunching. So you can imagine hundreds of Post-it notes, lots and lots of data, lots of presentations. The Wordle on the left gives you an idea of kind of what are the emerging themes that the district stakeholders find important. And then we distilled all that information into 10 statements, and these are the statements that guide the facility's master plan. We took those 10 statements to each campus site and had the campus develop strategies on how their campus was going to meet these guiding principles. We turned those strategies into some conceptual site plans for the master plan. And of course, a little quantitative data, some cost estimating obviously goes along with it, and there's levels of cost estimating down to how many roofing repairs and ADA accessibility and aging buildings getting modernized, all the way up to how to meet those guiding principles. We also work on project phasing, so we make some literate recommendations on how things might be phased to be most cost effective. One of our favorite engagement strategies is design thinking, and this is one that we use to find those intersections between educational vision and physical facilities. So we start by coming to an understanding, a shared understanding of what the educational vision is, a description of it. So everyone in the district, whether you're a teacher and you're really familiar with all these terms, or maybe you're a parent or a community member not so familiar, so we kind of create and establish an understanding. Of course, STEAM is a big component of the Newark Unified School District. We take them through a short explanation of design thinking based on the Stanford D-School model, and we actually go through all 5 phases of design thinking with our workshop participants: empathy, define, ideate, prototype, and test. So design thinking begins with empathy. Workshop participants are put in cross-functional pairs. So a teacher might be with a staff member, a student might be with an administrator, and they interview each other after they're given a prompt question. And the idea, the focus of empathy is about listening, asking questions, keeping an open mind, and letting go of assumptions. Once they've established empathy, the pairs move into the define and ideate stage. So the prompt for this particular workshop that you're seeing some samples of was improve the learning experience for your partner. So the interviews were focused on what do you need to learn? What do you need to have the ideal learning experience, and why? Why? So we asked why 3 times to dig deep. Then they came up with pictures, the images that describe the ideal learning environment, and then those images are turned into 3-dimensional prototypes. And they present the prototypes to the partner asking, did I get it? Does this describe an ideal learning environment for you? At the end of this workshop, there's aha moments. There are aha moments all during it, listening to another person's point of view, understanding the impact of space on learning, physical environment on learning, and how learning affects physical environment affects learning. And of course, that's our job as facilities professionals. We then take it to the campus master planning level. Site transformation based on guiding principles that were established by the district facilities visioning workshop. And here you see the Gilroy Unified School District, Brownell Middle School campus. They're working on conceptual site planning. They worked in cross-functional teams again, and they prepared their site plans, and then they had to present and defend them to their peers in terms of the guiding principles. We took their site plans back to the office. We worked with the landscape architect, the civil engineer. We look at parking, access, security. We look at site constraints. And there's a voila. This is the conceptual master plan for the Gilroy Middle School. So it's based on learning communities with a verdant central quad, lots of outdoor learning. And of course, it meets all of the site requirements and the budget, very importantly. And then we take these concepts down to the individual learning environments themselves. So we transform environments based on guiding principles, and we use something called the primordial spaces. Has anybody heard of the primordial spaces before? Mm-hmm. So this is a really easy way for anybody to access space in terms of learning. So we use caves, campfires, watering holes, mountaintops, sand pits, and then life, which is the context for everything that we do. And we explain what these crazy primordial spaces are. Caves, for instance, are places where you have learning for introspection. So quiet places. We have a lot of collaborative team environments, and we find that if they don't have cave spaces, kids don't have a chance to self-regulate and do focused quiet work. So we talk about the importance of learning in caves. And for instance, also sand pits, it's kind of the other end of the spectrum, learning by experimentation. Think of maker spaces, fab labs, even an outdoor environment that has manipulatives where kids can build forts, they can make art. These would be sand pits. We show our workshop participants some examples, so they have some images in their mind of what these spaces might look like. And then we show them spaces for adults as well, because we all need these spaces too, to access our best learning. We give the workshop participants game pieces, and we ask them to create learning environments. This particular exercise, they were tasked with creating a learning community for 150 kids and 6 teachers, approximately. And here they are presenting their learning communities, and they had to defend them in terms of meeting all of the primordial spaces, all of the educational vision requirements, and all of the guiding principles. So try to keep that picture in your mind, and I'll give you another aha, another big reveal. So that turned into this. And this is the model, the prototype for a learning community for a middle school. And as you can see, it's very indoor-outdoor, and I don't know if you can see the connection, but we can see it, and that's our job, is to interpret. And I think I'm pretty good here. So that's a snapshot of stakeholder engagement, and it is the qualitative aspect. The quantitative goes along with it. And we are really delighted to have the opportunity to bring these strategies to Newark Unified School District, and I look forward to your questions.
Questions?
No, I'll move to approve.
I'd like to.
Ms. Cocker?
The proposal that you have listed, the proposal that you have listed only talks about these engagement workshops. What are the items that are going to come out of this that we can expect for the $400 and some thousand we're talking about? In other words, we're talking about workshops, but what's beyond that? What kind of items are going to be presented to us so that we know when we are ready to start doing the facilities, we can give this to a construction company and say, this is what we want. Is it going to be ready architecturally for that kind of thing?
So a facilities master plan is just that. It's setting the vision for how facilities are going to be developed over a long period of time. So we're looking at Vision 2025, Vision 2030, and the ideal, we kind of approach it from the aspect of the architect that's receiving the facilities master plan. We want it to be absolutely clear on what the site current conditions are, what we need to fix, and what is the vision moving forward. So as an architect, I get this master plan, and I can really design and transform a campus that's meeting the district's needs. So all of the quantitative data, the assessments of traffic, the assessments of what's working on the campus, what's not working on the campus, where is it flooding, where are things going wrong. That is the existing facilities analysis, and we do that with our engineering partner, which is in our contract. And if you look at we have a timeline that we've developed that's pre-developed that you'll see that they run in parallel. So I'm only here to talk about a short piece of it because
I don't see that in the information that we have.
If you look at there is some information in the attachment that is the proposal breakdown, option A, B, C.
Right.
And maybe that's kind of getting to Member Crocker's question is, what is the foundational piece that's in each of those options, and what are some of the difference in those options that are in front of the board? Because I think if I look at the first page of the letter, it lists things like master planning, site plan background, cost and phasing, review enrollment information. There was one that I wanted to share that was here. Site planning options. So there's kind of that numerical aspect of what has to happen, and I'm assuming that's in each of the options, but could you kind of expand on that a little bit?
Sure. You're referring to what we would call boilerplate facilities master plan activities. These are the kinds of things that go into every facilities master plan that we do. So they're very comprehensive. The stakeholder engagement piece is something that's kind of at the district's, what the district wants it to be, how deep and how broad they want it to be. So we were asked to come up with a sort of a best and final proposal, And all of the basic facilities master plan functions are in the proposal. So you will get the cost analysis, you'll get the site plan layouts, you'll get, the detail about facilities. In addition to that, you'll get a very robust stakeholder engagement process where we provide all kinds of data. We document the process, it's in the master plan, and we show the connection. So again, we're trying to make the case that when you have a vision and you also have good data, that together that's a facilities master plan. So what you're looking at are our first proposal to you, which was the number of engagements with the campuses that the superintendent had requested. We were asked to go back and take another look, and we actually discovered that we had been asked to do individual stakeholder engagements with each of the elementary school campuses, because we want each campus to have a voice once the guiding principles come down. We were able to propose a cost savings by combining some of those early elementary school engagements, and we actually think that we can leverage cross-pollination that way, and it would be of a benefit. So, personally, I love our first proposal that we gave you. It's great. But thank you for having us go back and look again, because we were able to come up with a cost-saving idea. So that would be option B. Option C gets a little bit where we're actually cutting some of the real meat of the engagement process. So I'm a former teacher. I taught at the community college level. I'm a curriculum developer, and all of these workshops, they ladder and they scaffold each other. So when we take a workshop out, I have to be very careful that I'm still getting the data and still getting the engagement that we need to make good facilities master plan recommendations. So we look to cut a little bit deeper. We've cut out some one each at the junior high and high school and district level in order to cut it a little bit more. But there's a cost to that. We won't be able to do one of the workshops that we would really love to do.
This is the total price for everything.
Correct.
It's not just for the workshops. So it's
Correct.
for everything that you're doing.
Yes.
What is the total amount of money that we have to spend on facilities? Just looking to see the proportion of this as compared to our total budget for facilities. Do we have that?
Well, in terms of actually there are three funding sources for this project. There's the bond fund, Measure G. There's a certain amount that can be paid from Fund 40, which is the Russian money. And then there's also a portion of this project that can be paid with development fees. So you have those three sources of funds, and I don't know the exact total of those offhand, but it should be in the $15 million range for the current balance for those three sources of funds.
I believe Measure G has about 12 million, no?
Yes.
And then developer fees is,
Three, maybe?
okay, so anyway, that's the amount we have, but
Yeah, there's more than that, honestly, in terms of the development fees. It's let's see. Yeah, it's over 10 million in the Russian funds, as you were saying. Developer fees is approximately close to 10 million as well. So they're over 20 million
okay.
when you combine.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, so in terms of, are you trying to figure out like,
What percentage are we paying for this compared to what we have money spent to be spent? In other words, if we've got a budget of 20 million, if that's what we have for facilities, then is this a reasonable amount to spend for it, is my comment. Just looking at rule of thumb, we're talking about $500,000. So $500,000 is what percentage of 20 million? Quick math. I was not doing it right in front of me.
I think also, though, it's a 20.
Sure.
Yeah. It's a long-term visioning piece, which, you know, our current funds certainly won't cover everything that we come up with as a vision for the future. Mr. Nguyen?
And I'm not necessarily certain that we should equate services or contracted services with a ratio of the budget. And back to what President Thomas is saying, is it doesn't speak for the future possible funding. But I think we're paying for the service, a set service, not necessarily a sliding scale based on our budget. I think that would be.
But if we have $5 million, it's a lot different in terms of what we would need versus if we have more money.
Well, no, the needs still exist. Whether we have $5 million or $500 million, the needs still exist, and the need to create a master strategic plan for facilities still exists, regardless of our budget size. Now, what we're able to do and execute would be different, but the need doesn't change.
Mr. Nguyen, would you be willing to share with the board your experience in both the master plan itself that your district received, as well as the engagement piece that you participated in?
Overall, it was very positive, and that's why I made the recommendation to approve. We've discussed this previously, and I think at the previous meeting, it was down to fine-tuning, and this presentation is the fine-tuning aspect of it. But overall, no, you know, it was a positive experience. The scatter, the word scatter is what I call it, is actually very reflective of where our district is headed towards and what we've wanted. And so it produced a very positive outcome.
Mm-hmm. I'm hearing you sort of recommending option B because this cross-pollination and that you can combine several sites together. That would save us almost $19,000. I feel comfortable with option B. Mr. Rodriguez, and then, sorry, Mr. Preciado.
No, Member Preciado first.
And then Mr. Rodriguez.
I was just going to go to that point of Member Nguyen made a motion, but I wanted to clarify two things. Which option, and then if anyone was going to second
I didn't hear you make a motion.
He said move to approve.
I moved to approve. I didn't specify the option, but I'm okay with option B as well.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear
My
that.
apologies. Yeah.
There was no second to it.
Yeah,
correct.
Because
well, do you?
But we let Member Rodriguez speak, and then we can bring it back.
I don't mind seconding the motion because we're in discussion stage anyway. I agree with Member Nguyen. Whether we have $1 million or whether we have $10 million, the fact is that we're looking at approving $500,000 worth of expenditures for a master plan, and that's a lot of money. So when I look at your proposal here, it shows campus visits, and it's about 1/4 of the total. And can you take me through that a little bit so I have a better understanding on how that works as far as campus visits?
In terms of stakeholder engagement visits or site assessment visits, because both will happen.
Okay, well, you have your campus visits, so, you know, just, for instance, elementary, you have 2 per site for a total of 65. I just need a better understanding of what that entails.
Sure, so...
No, I was just going to say, I think...
Oh, can we go
the presentation you just outlined, I think...
I did.
Yeah,
it's in there.
Yes.
Right.
Do you want
it didn't really clear it up for me, so if you don't mind.
I was going very fast.
Yeah.
If you look at the East Side Union High School District, the first couple slides, back. So we have presented, we will do something slightly different from this for you, but this is a good idea. Sorry, I'm going backwards. So we have this district visioning workshop, and it's at the district level because we want to create an idea of what the whole district vision is. And then the very first campus visit, we would take that district vision to the campus, and we do a variety of things. For Eastside Union High School District, we did what's called a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. You may be familiar with that. We took all of the 10 statements. We had the campus committee rate how they thought the campus was doing in terms of the 10 statements. The campus is welcoming and has a clear identity. The campus encourages supportive social interaction. The campus is eco-friendly. And we had them rate the campus in terms of meeting these guiding principles that came from the district facilities workshop. And as you can imagine, when we talk about how to make a campus welcoming and with a clear identity, there are physical facilities solutions to that. If we're just trying to, replace a aging paint on the front of a building, that is like a vision-less facilities fix. But if we have a vision of creating an identity and creating a welcoming environment, we would approach it differently. We would create seating outside so that people can come in and greet each other. We would create transparency so that you can see through the campus possibly. So it just brings a different level of understanding to what we can do with facilities. So our campus committees get an opportunity to tell us where they think their campus is currently and what they think the opportunities are. We document their opportunities and then turn them into conceptual site plans. Second meeting, we bring those site plans back. Did we get it? Can you see it? Are you feeling it? Is this what you meant? What else can we do? And it makes them, campus committees and all of our stakeholders, very good consumers of design information. They understand why we're putting certain facility enhancements in place, why we're making recommendations, because they come directly from their own strategy.
And that was really my point, not to interrupt you, but the engaging the stakeholders at each campus, and then it becomes our vision as opposed to just you telling us what needs to be done.
I wish I'd said that. Yes, exactly.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you much.
Okay, I'd like to, Mr. Preciado?
Or you go ahead and make the motion, and then I would have one last piece, just.
Okay, well, I would honor Mr. Wynn's original
So
motion.
If you can just do it again, the motion for option B.
I'd like to move for option B.
Pardon?
I would like to move for option B, please.
Okay, I would second that.
I already had second.
Okay.
And my question to staff would be, because there's 3 funding sources, that if we can narrow it down, because from, I think the conversation we had last time, I think, or maybe it's just me that was leaning towards the developer fees, because it was a direct correlation between new development and how we're moving forward, but I don't know if there's some sort of requirements that would limit us if we just did that.
Yeah, yes, there are requirements, limiting requirements in terms of how the developer fees are used. And that's probably the most restrictive of the 3 sources. So what's on my agenda is to work with ANUS once a plan is approved and explaining the 3 sources to them and working with them on how they would invoice the district for the 3 funding sources that we have.
Okay.
So I can't give you a percentage right now. I'd have to work with them on developing that.
Well, I don't know if we could do this, or if this is just my personal opinion, but if we could do Fund 250 would be the first that you would get out of, then the second would be Fund 210, Measure G, and then the third would be the Russian sale, which is probably the reverse order of restrictive, but that would be.
Well, I agree. I think that as much as we can get charged to developer fees, we should.
Oh, absolutely.
And then secondly, if it fits within Measure G and the budget and the work that still remains, which I think our staff has to discuss that with you. There's work that probably takes precedent for Measure G that's kind of unfinished, like HVAC units, then you know, the percentage that we might be able to charge to Measure G would be impacted by any kind of requirements or kind of.
By the language of the ballot.
Yeah, yeah. But then the Russian money, I think, should be the last that we tap into.
Exactly. Thank you for that.
Member Wynn has to be okay with that. Member Rodriguez. With that priority order, because that would be, it's only two.
Is that something that we're including in the motion?
I don't know that we need to include
in the
it in the
motion. I
motion.
think that's just direction we're giving
It's
staff.
just
That's a
direction to
staff
staff on
Yeah.
We can do that.
I think staff
parsing
has
out.
to
Yeah.
understands where we're at.
Okay,
Call for the question.
okay. Please vote. 5 ayes. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations.
And we'll come
to
back,
us.
we'll come back with the actual breakdown once we know it, and report that to the board. Take a roll.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next, we have the wish list for Birch Grove Primary Elementary, and do we have anyone to speak on that?
No.
No.
I was gonna
Move to approve.
Yeah, I'll second.
Who made the motion?
Member Wynn?
I did.
Member Wynn moved approval. Member Preciado seconded it.
I have a request.
Ms. Crocker?
Looking at the map for that, I'm wondering, there's a distance of probably 15 feet, 20 feet between the end of the building and the fence. Does that offer the protection that the fence, I assume the fence only comes from the right hand, as you look at the building, the right-hand corner, and goes around to the office. It's a very limited spot. So there's that whole distance on the back side of the multi-purpose room, and I want to make sure that that maintains the integrity of the campus being closed. Yes, there are two gates that are there, actually.
Ms. Condon,
Yeah.
do you mind coming forward and answering that question at the podium?
There's a gate that surrounds the multipurpose room that would block the entrance into the schoolyard from that side.
Okay,
So if you go around the campus, if you go around the back of the multipurpose room, it immediately is closed off by
I
a
couldn't
gate that
access
goes
it,
into.
yeah.
I mean, if somebody's going to get in, they're going to get in, period. They're going to cut the gate or
No,
whatever.
agreed.
They'll do the same thing in the front.
Is there a
but it is
reason why
blocked
there
up.
was not, this fence was not included across that 15 feet? Was it cost?
I don't think that was, there's already a gate there. I don't think it was necessary to put in another. We can check, but I don't believe that.
In terms of the appearance of the school?
You don't see that gate from the appearances, from the back.
Right, but if you want the whole campus to be surrounded in a visual kind of thing.
They're not behind that. There shouldn't be anything on that side of the,
Oh, agreed.
okay, so
Agreed.
visually what they'll see is the gate that's being put in. And it will block.
Mhm. Yeah, I know the area you're talking about, yeah.
Am I saying that right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I have a question about access on the weekends. Will these gates automatically lock, and therefore groups that are used to using the fields on the weekends, would they be able to get access to the fields?
Anyone that uses these facilities during the weekend should be going through the Facilitron program, and custodians will be opening gates. They should not be open so anybody has access in and out. Or what is the purpose of spending the money on a gate in the first place?
Well, I think the gate is for security, but when we had the Lincoln proposal, the community wanted access to the Lincoln fields, families, anyone, without having to go through Facilitron to just get in and be using the play structures or whatever. is there.
Well, I understand that, but personally, I think they have parks to do that, and our facilities should be done through the school district. You have a facilitron for usage in there. Certain people can use facilities as long as the district knows what's going on. Having anyone go in, I think, opens other issues.
If I may, what I recall was the issue was going to be to create some more positive signage at each school. I think that my sense from the board is we want community that lives near schools to be able to access the school, at least just using the yard or walking your dog or whatever. And when I had a conversation with the Lincoln community and some of the teachers there and some of the parents there, they actually were asking for, can you help us with just a stronger signage that says, certainly we have all the standard no tobacco, but just things like if you use our campus, just pick up after yourself and, close the gate behind you type of a thing. So we can bring that back to the board for further discussion. But that was my impression from the board. Kind of majority was, at no point was Facilitron designed to not let people use a playground at a school in their backyard.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think we should be consistent at all of our campuses about access on the weekends.
So maybe that's something we bring back, but it's not part of this.
Not part of this.
let
yeah.
me bring that back in more of a formal
Okay.
agreement or something.
It's been moved and seconded. Did you get that? Okay, please vote.
Catch and use.
Oh, wait a minute.
You need to clear it.
Okay. Oh, I think 5 ayes. Thank you.
Okay. We'll bring something back.
Okay. Next, we move on to new business, item 9.1.
Lowell has a presentation.
Well, we have our 45-day budget revision for you, which has had some discussion over the past few days. And as just a conceptual piece in terms of what the state budget did to all school districts, I think from a legislative or the governor's perspective, they'd say, well, we gave you a little less money up front on the first year, but we made up for that by giving you ongoing money over future years. So by the time 3 years is up, you're more than made whole for the amount of funds that were taken away the first year. So just conceptually, that's what the state did, and we'll go through the details here so you can see exactly how that impacts the district. So I don't want you to think that you got less money overall from the state than they were originally promising. They just gave you less the first year and made up for it with the ongoing money in the out years. So here we go in terms of the presentation. This 45-day budget update is a requirement in the education code. Not more than 45 days after the governor signs the budget, we are required to show the public what that state budget did to our budget. So that's what this presentation is all about. And so the major changes were two things. One is they gave us a little increase in ongoing money, from a 3% increase to a 3.7% increase. So that was good. On the downside, they took away some of our one-time discretionary money. They reduced it. They were going to give us $344 per student, but they reduced it down to $184 per student. So that's the one-time money that they reduced. So how does that impact Newark Unified? Well, on the increase side, going from 3% to 3.7 increases our ongoing money by $361,000 a year. That's good. But on the downside, that decrease in one-time money reduced our revenue by $921,000 for this year. So the net reduction for this year is about $560,000. So remember, we're going to make that up over the next 2 years. But for this year, we're showing $560,000 less revenue than what we thought we were going to be getting. So go on here, and we show, specifically what that does to our adopted budget, where we do have a increase in our bottom line by $155,000. We were showing a positive, no deficit spending, but instead we're having deficit spending of $404,000 for this year. So that's the net result in terms of our reserves. Our reserves ending balance is still well above the 3% requirement. At 4 points, went from 4.2 million to 3.7 million, and just so you know that in terms of the unrestricted ending balance, we end up with about just a little over 3 million in our ending balance. And if you have any questions along the line.
Yeah, I kind of had a question. If you go back to the previous slide.
Yes.
Okay, the 404,000 is primarily one-time money.
Yes.
Okay. What is your thought about how is that money going to be spent? Because it's one time, number one. And number two, to say we're going to spread it over 3 years, go into deficit spending next year or this year, and then spread it over 3 years is kind of depriving us of the ongoing money portion that we might be able to use for negotiations, for example, salaries. So you're taking one-time money and saying, okay, well, we'll spread that over 3 years, but it's really the ongoing money that we should be trying to protect.
Yeah, well, in terms of how the district responds to this reduction in one-time money, there are a couple options. One of the things we talked about in cabinet today was, are there some large one-time expenditures that we can delay for a year or two? So that was one of the things that we were focusing on this year in cabinet today in terms of trying to come up with, see if that's a possibility rather than trying to cut ongoing expenses.
I mean, I think that the board should be able to weigh in on how we're going to handle this $400,000 deficit, especially since we've been promising the community that we are removing the structural deficit. Now we have to say, well, yeah, we're going to remove it over 3 years, but that we don't know what's going to happen the second, third year out. Especially with STRS and PERS, the $700,000 you told me we're going to have to pay in 1920 for just the increase in STRS and PERS. So it just doesn't seem to me that we should look at that $400,000 as something that we're just going to spend over 3 years.
No, we're looking seriously at are there some one-time expenditures that are possible to delay. Also, the superintendent pointed out, one of his major goals is to increase enrollment. And certainly if we get some increased enrollment with increased ADA that goes along with it, that will go a long way toward reducing that negative as well. And not just in a one-time way, but in an ongoing way.
I don't know.
So,
but Lowell, what I'm hearing is the board wants to see a plan for how are we going to approach that, and they want to weigh in on the plan.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
Is that kind of what I'm sensing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can bring that back.
I got it. A request to speak.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. Request to speak.
Oh, Ms. Crocker.
Oh. Yeah, I think that this happens every year. When we try to do a budget before we have the amount of money we're getting, there's always that flex. And so the statement made by the board is there will be no structural deficit. Now, I voted for the $4 million to allow us flexibility. If there's a time where you have a cash flow problem, then you need to have that to to move around, but you have to pay it back. And I don't see it being paid back because it looks like the balance is going down. We want to have a budget that is twice the amount of the required amount. That was our goal, and we're going the other direction. So I think that this is for staff to mess with. I don't think it's for us to mess with. I think this is, you need to look at the programs and what we have. And if the one-time money was there as special stuff, well, then we need to postpone special stuff until the money comes in, and then we can spend it on the special stuff. But at this point, we need to maintain the structural budget as being within the amount of money we get from the state. If we get more kids coming in, we get more money coming in, that's wonderful. We can spend it next year. We don't have to spend it this year. And so that was my concern. I object to the $4 million being eaten and being eroded away. And I understand the problem that comes when setting up a budget when we don't know what our income is. I truly understand that. But we have to have a plan to make sure that it doesn't go into the balance that we have. That $4 million is there as flexibility, but not there to be used. And that was my reason for voting for it years ago.
Thank you. Next, we show a 3-year look at what happens over the 3 years with that one-time decrease of the $921,000 this year, and then the increases that would occur over the from 18-19 through 2021 in terms of the ongoing increase to LCFF. And you can see that by the end of 3 years, you actually come out about $200,000 to the good. But like you say, that doesn't help you.
But we've lost almost 800,000 in the 2 years before. So it turns out to be a negative. In terms of the legalities or what happens, we have to have a budget, and there's a time frame in which we have to put the revised budget. We haven't spent this money yet, is that correct?
Correct.
So that we have the ability to, I hate to accept this because I don't think it goes with what we want to do as a board in terms of the budget. What is the deadline in terms of this going to the state?
I'm not sure.
You're asked for approval of the budget.
No, it's accepting the report. Accepting the report.
No action. Okay,
So-
no action?
Yeah, no.
Okay, I can accept the report, we disagree with it.
That's all we're doing.
That's it.
Yeah, okay, that's good. Thank you.
And then to Member Thomas's point, then would be to then have that discussion.
Yes.
To
During board requests, we can ask that we get a revised budget plan.
Thank you.
404.
Good.
How we're addressing it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, and below we show the resulting reserves above the 3%, although as you point out, it's still well below your 6% if that's your Other budget considerations, enrollment in the ADA need to be carefully monitored. You know, if it goes up, that's a good thing. But if it goes down, you're on current year ADA basis for this budget year. So if your ADA goes down this year, your projected revenues will go down this year. It's not like the district has had in previous years where you could always rely on the prior year's ADA. That's a floor for you, but that right now your budget is based on having more ADA this year. So that needs to be monitored as well. Staffing and other expenditures need to be carefully monitored, guarding against further deficit spending. The LCFF COLA increase also increases the estimated supplemental concentration allocation by about $38,000. And there is a low-performing student block grant and other one-time funding that was approved by the state budget. We still don't have guidance from the Department of Education exactly how that money will be distributed to schools, but that will provide some additional funding for special programs for the district.
What plans are there for budget development and the beginning of budget development for next year? Starting early on that, especially since we will be negotiating a full contract. It's not just a 1 year. It may be a multiple year contract, but anyway, the whole contract with our teachers is coming up. You told me there was something like 700,000 in increased STRS and PERS, which is pretty hard to carve out without impacting staffing, salaries, and things like that. So I would just like to see what your suggestion is in terms of the need to start negotiations, contract negotiations, as well as the budget development process.
Right. The superintendent and I actually discussed that today, and he's tasked me with putting together some improved reporting formats for the board, so for tracking expenditures, and then once your new CBO comes on board, starting with him right away in terms of budget development for next year.
Yeah, and I hope that includes a budget advisory committee. I hope that includes a budget advisory committee. Great, thank you.
Next steps, we have the unaudited actuals coming to you in September. Hopefully that will result in a little bit of an increase to your ending balance. It usually does. First interim then in December, unaudited actuals, and the second interim budget report in March. And if you, sounds like you may want some additional budget presentations during the year in terms of budget planning, that could also be added to the list of next steps for the district's budget.
I think the FICMAT report kind of spells out a monthly budget update that we really haven't gotten what they recommended over the past, so hopefully with the new CBO we'll be able to do that.
Yes.
Mrs. Crocker?
I just want to thank you for stepping in. When we had the vacancy, it's really good to have someone that's got past experience and that you can hit the ground running. And I do appreciate, Lowell, for all the work that you're doing. So thank you very much.
You have wonderful staff here, and they've been extremely helpful
Perfect.
for me in doing as much as I can for the district.
Right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, do we have to vote to accept that report or just move on?
It says we need to accept the report as presented.
Okay.
I move to accept.
Ms. Crocker moves to accept.
Second.
Mr. Rodriguez seconds. Please vote. Five ayes. Thank you. 9.2, agreement with Zoom services for district-wide special ed transportation.
Yes, this evening we have our Director of Special Education, Jennifer Willis, and we also have the contractor we're bringing forward after a process of an RFP process. So if you have any questions, she's here to answer, and we also have the contractor here as well.
Move to approve.
I'll second. So Member Nguyen moved to approve.
Member Nguyen moves to approve. Member Preciado seconds. Next we can have the discussion. I would like to ask a question. This is a very substantial increase. Is this the same kind of increase other districts are experiencing? Is it because we have more special ed needs, or could we explain the increase?
It's actually not an increase when you look at all of the transportation costs across all of our vendors. It's just that it's looking like an increase because they're all together. So when you look at what we were spending with Go Green and Orange Cab, it actually came to almost the same amount as well.
Oh, so Orange Cab and Go Green combined. Oh, okay, I didn't understand that. I thought we were comparing Zoom with Go Green, and
right. So
Okay.
it's actually about a lateral.
And what about the amount of transportation compared to last year?
It's just a little bit up, and it's commensurate with the number of students in special ed that we have.
So yeah, at some point, we really need to get a handle on how much we're spending on special ed. Thank you. Does anyone else have any comment or question?
I do.
Yeah, Mr. Rodriguez?
Thank you, Ms. Willis, for bringing this forward. Thank you for coming. Special education, as we all know, encompasses on the amount of money that we spend, and we have the SELPA. So, in the past, we've had Durham, and I know we had to go green, and so this will be a completely new venture for us with the partnership. So I'm sure, Ms. Willis, that you've gone through this thoroughly, and you feel this is a good fit for us. My only question, is Zoom doing other services, like with the SELPA that we have, or with similar SELPAs?
Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Eric McAfee. So I'm in charge of the East Bay school partnerships, district partnerships for Zoom. Came to the company about 5 months ago, nearly 6. So it sounds like you're asking, are we doing business?
Right.
But sure. So in the East Bay, we transport special ed and have contracts with Orinda, Martinez. Moraga is coming on this year. As of today, Oakland Unified School District. Last month, we signed a vendor agreement with San Juan Valley Unified for their sped transportation. So the short answer, yes, lots of clients, lots of banners that we could show you. San Jose Unified, lots of big banner names. And it's gone great so far. One of the reasons I think I'm standing here today is because of the endorsements offered from various schools around the Peninsula and Bay Area. So we come to you with a lot of confidence for the year that our service will be something you haven't experienced before to this level. The person I brought with me is actually on the operations side, Noel Yang. So we do very different things at Zoom, but Noel is part of a team that works directly with districts and parents and makes sure that everything in the day-to-day operations, special ed transportation, works smoothly. So it is a little bit different from what you're used to. We're not a bus company. We are able to do things on the fly. We reach out to the parents of all the SPED students, make sure that they have a comfort level with Zoom, how their children are going to be transported. So just a lot of different things. There's a technology piece that makes this a lot different. So I hope that answers.
No, it does, and thank you for bringing up the parents, and I was going to just piggyback on that. As everybody knows, special needs parents are very, very engaged in their children's, whether it's transportation, what happens in the classroom. So my question is, if we do have a grievance or a parent is not happy with something, can you kind of take me through that on how you would handle something like that?
Sure. From the aspect of, or the...
Engaging the parent and working with our special ed department, stuff like that.
Okay, sure.
Or the site.
We don't have a lot of that.
That's good.
Yeah, and that's truth. So do you want to speak to what happens in this? So I'm going to bring Noelle over because, again, she's the data ops person, so she could probably answer that.
So I'm the person that works directly with the parents to arrange the transportation for their children, and I am in constant communication with them. Anytime there's an issue with transportation, they are welcome to text me or call me. So I get calls almost every morning dealing with different issues. Basically, if there was an issue, I don't know what kind of issue you'd be talking about, but let's say, yeah, if they don't like the driver, that's fine. We have a huge pool of drivers in the East Bay. We would just happily, not assign that driver. We would tell the driver assignment team, never assign this driver to this account. or the student, and then we would just assign a new driver. I would work with the parent to ask them for, well, even before the rides start, I work with every parent to see what the needs are for that child, to make sure that the child is getting the best transportation they can get without any issues arising. We're trying to nip everything.
So what I was thinking of, it's not really not liking the driver as much
Right.
it is the discipline that happens because I drove a church bus for a long time
Okay.
and having all the kids.
Right.
It's just basically the discipline that happens on kids getting along with each other and if there's an issue of discipline on a bus, stuff like that.
So most of these cars would be they're personal vehicles.
Okay.
So it's not
Okay.
like a bus or a van with
Right.
multiple children. The max would probably be 3 students. Many of these children are getting transported individually.
Okay.
So if there was an issue with
Right.
discipline, we would
Okay,
work
thank
with
you.
the parents.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
I'd love to add something I found really remarkable. When I did the lengthy reference checks and called the other districts that work with them, the very first thing out of the mouths of every single district was, parents love them. It was really quite amazing. And it was because they said things like, parents say they're responsive. When we call and we say there's a concern, they immediately respond in a very positive and professional way.
Mr. Preciado?
I'd just like to call the question.
I have a question first,
okay.
if you don't mind. When you mentioned Oakland, all of a sudden my ears perked up because Oakland is much, much larger than we are. And if they're newly on board, do you have the vehicles? Do you have the drivers? Are you all set to go at the beginning of the school year?
Yeah, so we start with them in a week. So one of the neat things about Zoom is that we are not a finite resource. Think of a bus fleet. But we are also not trying to take over Oakland's transportation system. So in many districts, larger districts, San Ramon, Oakland's a great example because yes, they're giant. We are augmenting something that's in place. So we finalized our routes recently because they needed to finalize their busing system first. So then we sort of go in, if you think of it as sort of like filling in the cracks, where children are not able to ride with other children, where there are the certain needs particular to those students. Those sort of are what filters down to Zoom. And so we are not coming and saying, sell all your buses, Zoom is here, this is going to be, so we can do a lot for them. Oakland, I think we're starting with just about a dozen routes. So we responded to an RFP for Oakland Unified as well. So we were awarded that. I'm sure that will grow as our relationship with OUSD grows, but that's where we are right now.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Please vote. Oh, Ms. Crocker, I'm sorry.
Would it be fair to call you the Uber?
I would prefer you not.
No. I don't know, because it sounds like it has that flexibility.
Yeah, so we always say the easy way to explain us is we're like an Uber for kids, but there's really a thin similarity. The way that we do our background checks, the way that we vet our drivers, we're inspecting vehicles, we're interviewing all of our drivers personally. About 1 in 5 people that come to us and say we want to drive for Zoom actually becomes a Zoom driver. So very, very heavy vetting process. So in terms of that alone, we're much different than Uber. The other thing that makes us different, so you know, is our special ed drivers, the folks that are going to be servicing Newark, are dedicated to special ed transportation. They're not going to drop a student and then go take somebody to the airport. So that's the difference between us and an Uber driver.
The other question I have is this the total cost? Or will it change depending upon the number of students?
So we never know for sure. This
Okay.
is our best guess.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, please vote.
Thank you.
5 ayes, thank you. 9.3, do we have anyone to speak on that? This is the draft agreement with the City of Newark and McGregor Fields. I have a question or comment, unless one of you wants to speak first.
No, you can, but I do want to.
what I noticed, this is different from the last contract that we had for McGregor Fields, in that we had priority to use the fields for our students. This says nothing about our use of the field, so it's fully in the city's bailiwick to have this program on our McGregor Fields. They pay a lease for $1 a year, so it's theirs. But the thing that concerns me is that we are sharing in the liability, and I'm wondering why we need to share in the liability if we have no skin in the game, or whatever you want to call it.
Okay. If I may make a comment, that's part of why we wanted to bring this to the board for a discussion, and it's not on for action. We wanted to collect some input from the board, and then myself and Shar, as well as the city liaison committee, would take that input and try to craft and negotiate a new version with some of the board input. So that's why we're here. So that's good. That's good feedback.
So then I do have a question of staff. Is there a need for us to be able to use the fields for any of our needs, like as was written into the last
There may
MOU?
need to be, as we look at the second page, which is Exhibit A map. I don't know if we need the whole where the lettering is there, saying McGregor Fields off to the left as you look at the screen, but the area that's directly behind McGregor campus might be an area I'd like to reserve during the day, during school hours, where we might need it for an evacuation drill, or we want to have a field day. I think a portion of it we could kind of say this is what we want access to during the school day. I don't know if we need access to the full field yet. And the other part of the question I have is, how long is the term of this MOU? Are we looking at a 3-year, a 5-year? I'd recommend we keep it somewhat shorter cycle. The last time this was revisited was, I think, 87 or something. So those are some of the factors we wanted to talk about with the board.
When we talk, I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Saying when Frankie and I go and talk with them, we wanted to get your input in terms of what your comments might be.
Mr. Rodriguez?
There's two different things. Thank you, Superintendent and everyone, for working on this, because it's something that we just keep kicking along. You know, that whole area is, I consider it surplus area, and it's something that we might want to do something in the future. And to tie it in for that many years, you know, I'd like to see it on a 1-year lease, or no more than 3. In the area of insurance, this is our property, and we shouldn't be part. I mean, it's granted that we have insurance on all our properties, so that shouldn't really be part of that. We don't share in the insurance exposure. We're renting this property to them. It's up to them to have the $2 million policy, and so we don't need to put anything about, in my opinion, about each one maintaining the insurance, because we already have that. And so they are, in essence, leasing this property from us, and they need to meet our requirements. And so that's the two areas. And I like the fact that the water is going to be taken care of from them. And
we all like that.
Yeah, so that's something. But I agree with Member Thomas as far as the usage. It's like the event center at the high school. That was a joint agreement, but we basically have primary usage on it. And then, so this is our property, and we should have, you know, as much control on it. And if there's a way to do a 1-year renewable lease, or that we at least have a discussion after a year to make sure everything's going okay. And I know you have the agreement in there as far as, you know, terminating it, but.
Yeah. And just
That's
to
a
be,
1 year.
Just to be clear for the board, this is totally the first draft as is, as we received from the city. So we have not edited this document at all. I did talk with the city manager, let him know that we were going to post this. He said that's fine. It's just a draft form. So so we haven't modified it yet.
Mr. Preciado?
So one of the points I wanted to kind of put in there would be, because I don't know if we get charged for Newark Days to have a free booth for the district as part of promotion, because if it's our land and Newark Days is private,
love it.
we should not be getting charged for.
We do get one.
And then the other piece, just a question: does the city make any money off of the fields? So if you take the total of what they rent, subtract it for the maintenance and any other costs, are they making any money off of it? Because if they are, then we should share in any profits.
Surplus, yes.
Just a point, I have asked that question in the past, and they say that they do not make a profit.
They lose money.
That the
It's a service.
Yeah, that they really do lose. They don't make a profit.
So if they break even, they break even, then that's fine. I just want to make sure that it's written in the language. Should the case arise that like Newark Days 2.0 is like coming on board and they make like $1 million for that one event, right? Like
we get a piece of the action.
It's part of any contract, because then they can.
Okay.
Ms. Crocker?
We will be discussing it, and I think because we've got a 180-day notification, that gives everyone a chance to do it. Like, we are probably not going to have a dramatic change in the school Bridgepoint usage of it, but I think that it needs to be guaranteed to be used during the school day. And because I think it is property, they're going to probably balk a little bit and say, well, you need to pay some of the water or some of the maintenance. And so I think that's part of the back and forth. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever used it from
well, but if we are looking to increase the footprint of the school and the number of kids in the school, then we have to have fields for them. They have to have that available.
I don't have a problem because we can have a 180-day notice. I have no problem with giving them a substantial amount of years to lease it.
Okay, thank you. If you have any other ideas, either let Frankie or me know before the meeting. It's in October, I think. So you've got time to think about it and see what the community thinks and what your feelings are.
Okay. Moving on then to 9.4, the iReady services.
Move to approve.
I had Mr. Nguyen moves.
I'll second.
Mr. Preciado seconds. I just had a comment about the fact that the purpose and background state that this is diagnostics and assessment, and really it's almost half instruction. So I think that, when we write these things up, we should clarify that, even though I know 1.8.1 talks about after-school learning and other activities. I just think we should try to be precise in our write-ups on the agenda items so the public knows.
Okay.
Call for the question.
Yeah, I'm just getting ready. Please vote. 5 ayes. Thank you. .5 MOU between Hayward Unified School District and Newark.
I'll move to approve.
Mr. Preciado moves.
I'll second.
Mr. Nguyen seconds. Please vote. 5 ayes. Thank you. 9.6, declaration of surplus instructional materials.
Move to approve.
Second.
Mr. Nguyen moves. Mr. Preciado seconds.
I just have one question.
Mr. Preciado?
I have a question in terms of the process. It says it's used as surplus, it's obsolete. Does this get recycled or does it get thrown away?
First, we try to see if there's a way that we can donate. I know we had a lead of an organization that we could possibly donate, and I know in years past we've also done that. So before we recycle.
Okay. Please vote. 5 ayes. Thank you. Wait a minute. Close and display. 5 ayes. Thank you. 9.8, change order.
497.
Oh, I'm sorry. Resolute.
Before you move on.
Yes.
On the prior item, I thought I seconded. Did you second it, Dr. Nicholson?
Which one?
Yeah, on the
96.
on the surplus.
Shar, do you know who seconded that?
I thought it was Member Rodriguez, but you had said Preciado, so I tried Preciado, but I thought I heard Member Rodriguez.
Okay, could you correct that, please? Okay. Okay, 9.7.
Move to approve.
Declaration of surplus equipment.
I move.
I second.
Okay, Mr. Nguyen moves, Ms. Crocker seconds. Please vote. Five ayes, thank you. 9.8, change order number 6 to the contract between NUSD and DL Falk, and we do have a speaker on this, Ms. Parks.
DL Folk. How many change orders is Newark Unified going to have to experience before they can bid DL Folk goodbye? I'm sure Mr. Nguyen was not too happy when he saw this, based on previous comments. 7.7% increase in change orders is absolutely ludicrous. Remember the leak at the high school experienced last year in the mat room? The mats were destroyed and you had to replace them. Well, get ready, because my understanding from the CBOC site tour in April and from the June meeting, that the roof wasn't the only problem. The windows are compromised, so unless you replace them prior to our first big rainstorm, you'll probably be back in the same situation with a flooded mat room. Hopefully Banner will provide you with this information and there will be plans to address this concern. And I can't wait to bid DL Folk goodbye. The sooner the better. What a mistake.
Thank you. Do we have a motion? Oh, Mr. Nguyen.
So a few months ago, I thought we were completely finished with any change orders for DL Falk, and so that was my understanding of it. I will not vote for any kind of change order for DL Falk ever, including this one. So can we move this to another time for discussion or whatnot, because this is not, I agree with Ms. Park, this is not acceptable.
Yeah, I'd like to see staff weigh in also. I'm very concerned that this is one after another, and the board's, it's kind of like, gee, do we have any choice but to vote yes? And if we do vote no, what happens?
I don't know. Susan, want to comment?
You really don't want to hear me comment. I have no clue about change orders for Banner. Robert's here.
Banner to come up?
Quite frankly, I'm concerned about a couple things with the roofing. I don't know I'm still learning which buildings are supposed to be there. You know, I'm fairly new in some of this stuff. There's a building at the high school that I'm concerned about that has a brand new roof, and we're looking at putting spouts on, what the hell are you calling them?
Downspouts.
Downspouts, thank you, that were put on our wall, not by anybody new, they're old. We're not even attached to a stud, and we have to put them on. We have to pay extra to get these pieces on. Well, in retrospect, there's no floor in that building. How do you put a roof on a building, because it's part of a contract with HVAC, that has no floor that you can walk on? So I really think that everybody should look at any change orders that come in regarding that roofing and HVAC. So I would just ask for more information and visually go out and see what is being fixed, changed, or used for change orders. That's all I can say.
Yeah. So the downspouts, as Susan is saying, were incorrectly installed many, many years ago. And so the contractor was responsible for putting in part of the system which was supposed to connect to these downspouts, and the downspouts are not attached correctly. Not the contractor's fault. But I think your question is, can we not approve the change order, but the work needs to be done? Can we have it done by a contractor that you have more confidence in? absolutely certain that can be done.
So I actually
There's nothing about the contract that would require this contractor to do it. I would want to ask about any warranty issues that might occur if we have another contractor do these two pieces. It doesn't appear to be a result in a warranty issue, but I would research that before I would say, yes, we're a contract with another contractor. Do you want to not prove this tonight while we do that research?
Yeah, let's do that, and I would be very surprised if it's attached to warranty, because that would lend that one contractor hold a monopoly on services for that particular item. So this change order is not necessarily about the downspouts, it's about the
No,
I guess,
we
the pitch
did
pockets.
reject one for the downspouts that we felt we can do internally and not pay another 25. What was it? I don't remember,
Right.
Pat, what the dollar was, 2,500, just to put three.
It was about $5,000-6,000 for something that could be done by one of our staff in a
Right.
day, I think.
Hence, when I found out there was no flooring in there, it made me concerned too. So there's just other things. So I would definitely.
What was your comment, I'm sorry, about the flooring? I
The
didn't
flooring
understand.
needs to be replaced. I don't know if it's the whole floor or what, but you walk on the floor and the floor is rotted. So how do you, my concern, I don't know where common sense comes into placing orders, but we seem to have a lack of it. I'm sorry, I've always been vocal, I'm sorry.
You're part of the we.
I'm sorry.
Welcome aboard.
Right, and it will be fixed with common sense,
Yes, we
Pat.
will. Thank you.
Thank you. So, when we were looking into the downspouts and I found out about the roof being changed, actually, Robert, was the roof changed or did they put HVAC on that roof? Over 900?
So I think we're digressing, because we're talking about the change order, if we can figure a way to be like, the question I had is in terms of the deadline and how it's going to affect the kids, because we can wait for someone else, but then does that mean that they're not going to, like, how is this going to affect the students, the schools, and like?
No impact.
Okay.
No impact.
Until the rain.
Then can you bring it back with a full further discussion with answers to these
And
questions?
Maybe other contractors.
Or look for another contractor. Because
Yeah, Mr. Rodriguez and then Ms. Crocker.
I don't think you have to bring it back. I think that if staff feels that it can be something that they can handle, and we just vote no on the change order and we move on.
That's true. It's a small enough amount that you don't need to bring it back to us for approval. Is that true?
Don't tell me what's been done.
Yeah.
These are under the bid
Yeah.
limit.
Right.
I don't know where, I've heard a discussion about the downspouts, but I don't believe this change order 6 is about the downspouts.
Right, it's not.
It's about the pitch.
Right, the pitch.
It's about
Part
two
of
things.
it, that and the pockets, and then the vents that are also.
Right.
Yes, we did look at the vents going to the next contractor that was got to do the air conditioning units that you're going to do next summer, I think. We did look at that. That is still a possibility. The problem is you got a roof that there's so much compression of air underneath it, it floats. It does this. That's why the architect some months ago decided that we need to put the vents in so it'll keep that roof from floating. And that's part of that 6. The pitch pockets that are in there is in the contract. You had to put in a boot, as you would say, when you got pipe coming out of the roof and going somewhere else. You got to put a boot in there, and it's got to be 8 inches. There's several of them in yours. Matter of fact, there's probably 12 to 15 of them in this change order where you can't put an 8-inch boot. So you got to come in there and you got to put a pitch pocket in there. So you wrap it, put the pitch in it and all that. So that's part of it, which wasn't part of that contract. The vents are not part of that contract either. It's just that the guy happened to be on site. His price was better than our first estimate. And that's the only reason that change order 6 is out there. I will tell you, though, that they're going to power wash all the roofs this week before school starts. So they've got like a half a page of punch list that's left to do as far as I know. And this is the only one. And like I say, in 3 years, this is the 6th change order you've gotten. So.
Okay. Ms. Crocker and then Mr. Wynn.
Is there another contractor that can do this?
Yes, you can get it. The issue with the vents is that you're going to have to use the Andy's Roofing, who actually roofed that roof, or you void your warranty.
Okay.
And so you're talking about capture, that is a capture. When you put a roof on, that warranty is tied to that product, and it's also really tied to that contractor. So it's historic.
But the pitch pockets, someone else can do that?
Pitch pockets, in my personal opinion, can be done by whomever. The problem is that if you get a leak, the contractor who put that roof in is not going to, you're not going to be able to just tell him that it's his issue, because
you're going to mess with the warranty.
That's another warranty issue. I'm sorry.
So you're talking about the roof contractor is connected with Falk?
I'm sorry?
Is the roof contractor?
The roofing contractor is Andy's Roofing, who works under Falk.
Okay.
There's subcontractor.
Subcontractor.
Yeah, he's a subcontractor.
Can you tell me how this pitch pocket is it for unforeseen
It should have been,
occurrence?
if I remember looking at that, there was a drawing of it. And what it is like you'll have a piece of conduit that comes up, maybe it's 4 inches.
Right.
With an LB on it.
So when they did the scope walk and sidewalk, how was that not seen? How is it unforeseen?
I'm sorry?
Why is it a surprise?
When they did, when they
I'm sorry.
No, it's not your fault. When they did the initial scope walk, why wasn't that seen? How is this a unforeseen addition?
No, that's really never been an unforeseen condition.
But that's what it states in the change order. It's for unforeseen.
There's about 12 of those out of probably 200 of them that's on your roofs that could not fit in the 8-inch standard cup, or, yeah, it's a cup.
So it sounds like the contractor missed 8 of the 200 elements, right?
That we discovered there were 8 to 12 of them.
It sounds like they missed 8 out of the 12 or whatnot, then it needs to get fixed.
The one piece that I'm most concerned about is your vents and your roof. And that's, I mean, if we pitched them all together, we made a negotiated deal with them, and that's kind of where we are. I mean, whatever you guys, ladies, want to do, it's just, I'm just telling you that somewhere down the line, you're going to have to do both of those things, or you lose your warranty. And then when you do them, you got to have it with the contractor that put that roof in.
Well, I recommend that staff look into these issues and come back with a plan. And if we don't have to approve it, and it's within the scope of what you can approve, let's just get it done.
Go ahead and do it.
Okay. Sure.
So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
With the understanding.
With another
of the warranties,
subcontractor/contractor.
Somebody
We're
not
doing
deal
another
full
work order.
Well,
Try to exit them as
hopefully
soon as possible.
with a contractor that maintains the warranty.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Next, 9.9. This is the first reading on Board Policy 13 and AR 1312.3, Uniform Complaint Procedures. It seems like there's changes to the Uniform Complaint Procedures pretty regularly. Recommended. Is there any comments from the board? So we'll bring it back for the second reading. 9.10, classified layoffs.
I move to approve.
Mr. Nguyen moves to approve.
I'll second.
Ms. Crocker seconds. I have a question on this one. I assume this is adult education. Do we have adult education programs in the summer? And if not, or if we do we need to offer adult education in the summer? Thus, why is this an 11.5 month position? And can we save money by making it a less, oh, gee, there's a lot of people asking to speak on this. Is that from before?
I wanted to speak on this, but
You did?
It's been 4.
Me too. I want to speak on this
You
one.
didn't clear it out.
Okay, well, that's my question. I'm sorry, I didn't see everyone's request. Can I have my question answered?
Sure. So my understanding is this was catching up with some of the changes we made in adult ed from last year. So, go ahead.
Actually, yeah, we
one of the things the board tasked us with about a month ago was to come up with some ways of cutting that deficit in adult ed. And so in working with the administration there, this individual who's subject of this item had requested to go to fewer hours and or days of work, in which technically becomes a layoff. And so this is part of that request from the board to do some things to cut expenses in adult ed. And so that's what brings this item to you. But in terms of questions about can this be done even further, I guess that's your question.
Well,
we could explore that.
We could explore that as well.
Yeah, and my question is pretty clear in terms of, do we have work in the summer? Do we have any classes in the summer, and why is that person an 11.5-month employee if we don't have any classes? Are they preparing the schedule for the next year? I mean, there may be reasons for that, so it's the question. Mr. Rodriguez?
Thank you, President Thomas. The going from 12 months to 11.5 months, who's going to decide when that happens? Would that, I mean, it sounds to me like naturally be during the summer. That's one of my questions. Or if we go from 12 to 11, it would be during the time that, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to save any money, because if their workload is still the same and maybe they're averaging over 11.5, they'll do it in 11 months. So that's one of my questions. The other thing is, in studying adult education, I thought we had agreed that we would have staff look into possibly increasing the fees or coming up with other classes, like a lot of school districts have a DMV class that they offer, and we did that years ago, and that brings in a lot of money, and that money is going somewhere else now. So other ways, other than just to make a cut, to look at ways to bring in additional income, because adult education should be self-sufficient, as we've already agreed.
Yeah, we are approaching them.
Right.
The adult ed staff.
Right. So, and we've brought this up over the years, not with our Superintendent Sanchez, but before with the prior administration, and it seems like, you know, it just wasn't dealt with the way we felt it should have. And if we can increase fees or bring in other things that the community likes and needs that would generate income, it's always easy to reduce, you know, somebody's, you know, reduce an employer and anything. It's more constructive, I feel, to try to find another way to bring the funds in so we don't have to do that. Okay, that's my point of view.
Mr. Preciado?
So I just want to know, I don't think it is easy because it's someone's livelihood. However, to your point, you said that this person wanted this.
Yes.
So, okay, so that clears up a little bit, or makes me, or eases me a little more. But I did want to know or ask, why is it only classified and not management? It should be a shared impact, especially if management's the one who didn't budget correctly. So, like, it seems like the impact is all on the classified when they had no, unless they're the ones who created the budget, but it should be managed, right? So it should be like a shared impact for that piece. But if this person is requesting this, then that eases me. I'm okay for that. I wouldn't be okay for the 11 just because of cutting costs. Like, in terms of cutting costs, that's why it should be a shared impact.
Ms. Crocker?
It was an old request.
Okay.
I just had.
Mr. Nguyen, did you have anything?
I just had something quickly. I didn't mean it was easy, okay, Member Preciado. Actually, it's very difficult. What I mean is, a lot of times when this happens, the first thing we look at is reducing FTE, instead of looking at alternative ways to bring in additional funds, so we don't have to do that. That's what I meant. It's not easy at all.
But this does bring up a point, I think. Is it true that there are only 4 days where classes are given, so that 1 day a week there are no classes? So then I think Mr. Preciado's point about prorating the amount we charge for oversight by the principal and any other office support should be prorated and reduced. So that means that the McGregor's budget would have to go up that amount. Okay.
There's a motion and a second.
So motion and a second. Do you have those? Okay, please vote. 5 ayes. Thank you. A request for use of bond funds for contemporary controls router at Schilling Elementary. Staff one.
A second.
Mr. Rodriguez moves, Mr. Nguyen seconds. I have a question about that. Is this something that we didn't plan ahead for, or that we missed, or what happened with that?
This is kind of fun. Actually, in a lot of cases, what was quoted for new product, I hope I say this right, we replaced the pool system over there. We moved over the new heater, we got a whole new system over there, but they used the existing piping.
We're not on that item yet.
This is Schilling. Okay, so Schilling. So
Schilling
we did. Okay,
this is
it's
the
like
physical control.
this is the
issue.
control.
Yes.
Same sort of thing. What happened is they went in and we did the HVAC. Banner quoted for replacement of HVAC. Well, when they did the program, and I do believe that when you're quoting, you don't go in and say, I'm going to replace all the electrical. I think it's customary that they use what is there. So in retrospect, our buildings are old, our material, the equipment is old, and it starts to break down. Well, with the volume of the upgrade, our system deteriorated, I guess, faster. So what we spent all the money in for the new system, we're not getting the benefit of it because the electrical that has been used and is deteriorating needs to be replaced. It's very costly to go in and replace all of that, so we chose to go to bypass that and go for a router so that we can get the benefit of the new system without replacing all the old electrical. And we can do it cheaper to do through the router. So it wasn't overlooked, it was quoted with the existing parallel, but what happened is over the time it couldn't withstand the change.
So
There's a motion.
there's a motion and a second. Please vote. 5 ayes.
No, this is the same.
What?
This is the swimming pool now. 9.12.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm saying, remember Condon was talking about the swimming pool.
Right. Now we're going to talk about the swimming pool. 9.12.
Okay, so same thing. Their swimming pool, we spent a lot of money on the replacement for the swimming pool. And again, they used the existing plumbing. Well, this past year, we've had continuous issues with leaking from this plumbing. So they put a new system on top of the plumbing that was there, which was smaller. Eventually could not handle the pressure of the new system. So it's a direct result of what we changed to upgrade for the new system. But again, deteriorating the existing. It's like changing a pipe for plumbing and you only change this one little piece, you're going to have breaks throughout the whole system. So they're using the old system. In order for us to fix this is the most cost effective. If we were to go underground and redo all the piping, it probably would have cost us 3 or 4 times more. But again, it's a direct hit because of our upgrade.
So we have 3% of our budget, which is a big chunk for regular routine restricted maintenance. To me, this sounds like a maintenance, $10,000 maintenance bill, and I'm wondering why you're asking that it be taken out of the Russian money, because it's not part of the Russian budget, and so we're kind of going after our
Okay,
capital
so-
budgets piecemeal?
So if you had done it properly from the beginning and used the piping to fix it, you wouldn't have this issue today. It's a direct hit because of what you've accepted from the Russian money originally. So what we're, with that replacement on the pooling, the pool, the new heater, the new system, that all came out of one-time Russian money, I believe, did it
I
not?
don't believe so.
Where'd it come
Their
from?
swimming pool was never part of
It's
the
not a
Russian.
swimming pool, it's the heater and the
I think that's Prop
cogen.
39.
Where was it from?
I think it's Prop 39 energy efficiency.
Yeah,
Okay.
it says it's Prop 39. Do we have Prop 39 funds to pay for
No,
it?
because it's not the Prop 39 energy. It's based on the fact, because of what you put into there, we're asking for it to come out of a different fund. It's not a maintenance fund. It's based on the direct improvement that we've accepted for a change. So unless we start looking at changes to improve our district that include the existing electrical or the existing plumbing to find out whether it's going to save us money and do the right thing for us, then we're going to have those constant breakdowns. It should not be a maintenance, it's not a maintenance issue for that pipe to break down because you put better equipment on top of it, is what I'm trying to say. The money and the maintenance, although I know you think there's a lot there, it's not going to be a lot. Not when it's costing me $10,000 and $15,000 to clean trees in the school district, or to do the plumbing for the that are breaking down because of the backflow issues. And that money will not last. You have money sitting that can be used as a one-time. I know where you're going, Nance.
I know.
You know, and I'm not trying to drain it. I'm trying to use it properly. Okay, it's just the way it needs to be.
Well,
So
you know,
I'm
I think
asking that it helps to assist in the dollar amounts that are coming forward.
Well, I just want to finish up by saying that I feel very strongly that we don't have a budget for the remainder of the Russian funds, and that anything that comes to us should be part of an approved budget change. Mr. Preciado?
So I did want to echo that. Is there, I guess the question would be, is there any other source of funding that we can use to pay for that? Because to remember,
What do you think? Today's question.
I think the Russian funds is one possible source. You could charge it to the 3%, the routine restricted maintenance account. Although, as Susan said, that's a pretty thin budget, very thin budget.
yeah, but so is the Russian funding when you keep on spending and you don't have a plan for it of how it's going to be outlined. Even though it seems like a lot, it's one time, the property's sold, it's gone, and then every time we chip at it without a plan, then this is why we're in the situation where we are with the other budget pieces.
Yeah. Well, you have a lot of one-time facility issues with old schools.
So hopefully the facilities
So
master
so
plan.
it's it would be a legitimate expense for either Fund 40 or for routine restricted maintenance.
What about our facilities use fees that we've collected? Can we use that?
No, it would not, for developer fees?
No. Facilities use.
Facility use fees.
Yeah, when someone
Yeah, that would be allowable if the district maintained those revenues in a separate fund to fix the facilities, but to my knowledge, the district has not been doing that.
Where's that money? I mean, where's...
It goes into the general
It goes in the general, okay.
Ms. Crocker?
This is something that's necessary for something that was upgraded, because there was not the transition from one to another. It needs to be there, it needs to be part of the original budget. So I think that it's something that we no longer have cogeneration. And that was designed when it was put in to save money and to be able to see what happens, but apparently the district had not identified the money that was saved, and so there's no way we can prove that it actually saved money. So we
It
went
actually
to...
didn't, we were never hooked up to, they never hooked it up to PG&E. So we just found out recently that the money we were supposed to be making for all those years, we never received, which is another issue that needs to be brought forward. So when you talk about spending money and doing the right thing, no one follows up on what happens. So we end up in situations like this.
Yeah.
So, or we could have saved that money and put it towards replacement at the
Right.
bottom. Exactly.
Well, I hope you're noticing those things and
Well, that's why I'm here, and I'm saying that
Thank
we're
you.
trying to do the best we can. There's a lot of changes that need to be done at this district. I mean, down to changing carpets that I'm getting $35,000 bills to change a floor in one room and classrooms. And that's why I said, if you start thinking about what's going to be spent out of that budget, that's not going to last. And as many years as we have not got a 3% deficit, deferred maintenance money, there's going to be a lot that needs to be.
so everything's piled
Yeah,
up.
this is not deferred maintenance.
We are way behind.
We are
No,
way
this is not
behind.
deferred maintenance.
No,
So we're trying to
routine
make
restricted
things work with what we
maintenance.
can. Our
That's why we
manpower.
brought you on board.
Thank you. So listen to me. We need the money coming from someplace else.
Mr.
You know,
Nguyen.
I'm only asking so we can make it better for our
You're-
kids.
you're okay.
We need more employees too, and that's another thing we can do with our deficits. So.
Well, my vote is going to be a vote about the need for the board to be involved in the budgeting process for our. So did we have a motion and a second?
I move acceptance.
Second.
Okay, Member Crocker moves, Member Rodriguez seconds. Please vote. Four ayes, and Member Thomas votes no.
Thank you.
9.13.
Move to approve.
Second.
Who's a comment on this one?
Is there a comment on this one? No. Oh, I'm sorry, Kate. Ms. Parks?
At this point right now, well, first of all, I'd like to say that I'm sorry to see Ms. Clinton resign. She was such a short timer on our committee. However, I do understand she is seeking a position on the board and felt that it would be a conflict should she be elected. However, as it stands right now, the bond committee only has one member, Olga Bjorn. Adam Mozaletsky and Merrick Yarborough's term ended June 30th, along with Carrie Knoop, myself, and Jack Dane, who were termed out. Even if you extend the term, because it should have been extended before it lapsed, there would only be 3 members. Can you imagine this board having only 3 members? You couldn't speak to a colleague without violating the Brown Act. When the Bond Oversight Committee presented the annual report in June, I reminded all 3 of you that the 3 of us were leaving. And I mentioned the need to solicit new members. There have been no advertisements in the newspaper, at least that I've seen, nor is there any posting on the district homepage. It seems to have fallen on deaf ears. Plus, the committee did not receive any of the information that it requested at the June meeting, nor in a follow-up email on June 18th. They meet in 5 weeks. This committee has been failed by this district, I feel. They've been left hanging without a proper number of committee members, which is 7 by law, nor have they been provided the tools and information that they need to be a properly functioning committee. Shame on you.
Thank you. Do we have a motion and a second, please?
Already.
Mr.
Nguyen and I second.
Mr. Nguyen made the motion, Mr. Rodriguez seconded. Close, sorry. Please vote. 4 ayes. Member Preciado had to leave. Next, we have 9.14, CTC credential recommendation waiver for Rachel Kahulu.
Move to approve.
Mr. Nguyen moves, Member Crocker seconds. Please vote. 4 ayes. Thank you. 9.15, CTC credential recommendation for waiver for Gregory Madawaran.
Move to approve.
Second.
Mr. Nguyen moves, Mr. Rodriguez seconds. Please vote. Four ayes, thank you. Next, agreement with West Coast Literacy Workshop.
Move to approve.
Mr. Nguyen moves to approve.
I'll second.
Ms. Crocker seconds. Please vote.
I apologize. I have to leave. I'm getting real bad spasms. So you still got 3 board members. so
Okay.
Should be okay.
Better hope one of us doesn't vote no on something.
No, you won't.
Okay, 3 ayes. Okay. Employee organizations. Do we have anyone from our employee organizations that wish to speak? Seeing none, we move on to the consent agenda, personnel items. Do we take these one at a time? I'm trying to recall.
For personnel.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. Move to approve.
That's right, we want to do that anyway. 11.1, appointment of the principal for Snow Elementary School.
Move to approve.
Superintendent. Oh, Mr. Nguyen moves, Ms. Crocker seconds. Please vote. Three ayes.
If I may, at this time, I'd like Miss Cheryl Owsley, I almost said Osley, but Owsley, comes to us from Oakland Unified with several years of teaching and leadership experience, bachelor's degree of science, and a master's degree in education.
Yes.
Please share what you've been doing and how you wound up here in 2 minutes or less.
Ooh, 2 minutes or less. First, I want to thank you, Mr. Sanchez and Ms. Saavedra, and the board and Newark Unified School District for this opportunity to share my experience and expertise, and to become a part of Newark Unified School District. My goal is to work diligently to meet the diverse needs of the students and staff that I will partnership with. So I've been in education for over 20 years. I've worked at many different schools in Oakland Unified School District. I also worked in the Catholic school system for a number of years and taught middle school. And then I went back to Oakland Unified School District and I taught elementary, 5th grade, 4th and 5th grade. And then I've moved around to several schools. I've taught in the hills as well as the flatlands. So I bring to you a wealth of experience, and that's what I've been doing. And I've also been an assistant principal, an interim principal, and about 3 weeks ago now, I was the principal of Oakland Fine Arts Summer School. So I want to thank you, and I am so excited. Can't you tell?
Oh, well, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Sorry for having you hang on so long.
Oh, no.
It was your first test and you passed.
Yeah,
you passed.
You passed. But you can go home now.
I can go home?
You can go home now.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. 11.2, appointment of the assistant principal of Newark Junior High.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Mr. Nguyen moves, Ms. Crocker seconds. Please vote. Three ayes, thank you. Next, personnel report.
Move to approve.
Mr. Nguyen moves,
Second.
Ms. Crocker seconds. Please vote. Three ayes, thank you. 11.4, Santa Clara University Memorandum of Understanding.
Move to
accept.
I'll second.
Ms. Crocker moves, Mr. Nguyen seconds. Please vote. Three ayes. Thank you. Next, we move on to the consent agenda, items 12.1 through 12.14. Does anyone wish to pull any of those items?
Move to approve the...
Just a minute. I believe there's someone that wishes to speak. Please, come forward.
Want to speak on 12.1?
Oh, 12.1, yes.
Gone out. So my concern is on the Title II fiscal year expenditures for 12 months. It shows that there's $142,000 that was allocated last year with a remaining balance of $78,400. On the Title III English learner expenditure for 12 months, it shows that $134,400 was the revenue, and it shows $84,800 was left. $84,800. And for the Title III immigrant 12 month, it shows an allocation of $16,200 with $6,800 left. My question is, first of all, is that money allowed to roll over? And secondly, again, whether it's allowed to roll over or not, why didn't the students that were entitled to receive funding with this money last year receive the funding, and why didn't the teachers who were supposed to get professional development with Title II money didn't get the money spent on them at the time?
Thank you. So I would entertain a motion.
Am I entitled to an answer, whether it be now or later? I mean, I don't understand. I get up here and ask questions and I'm ignored, so.
Well, I do believe that it would be appropriate for Ms. Salinas to get back to you via email.
Well, I just want to make sure that I will get a response. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Salinas, is that okay? For your direction. Thank you. Okay,
I'll move to approve 12.1 through 12.14.
Mr. Nguyen moves to approve 12.1 to 12.14. Please vote. 3 ayes. Thank you. Okay, next we move on to Board of Education Committee reports, announcements, requests, debrief, and discussion. Can we begin with you, Mr. Nguyen?
I'll pass. Thank you.
Ms. Crocker?
I have nothing to report.
Okay. I have a couple things. I have been asked to draft a letter for the board to consider putting in our draft strategic plan. And so that's kind of the letter I drafted. I shared it with the superintendent earlier.
I'll take a copy if you have an extra.
Yeah. Do you want to pass them down if there's...
Sure.
So I'm not the most articulate person, so I would really love it. I can send you copies via email. I would love it for you to make edits and suggestions. So I'll send them to you via email, and then you can send them back to me, and I will create the final draft for the superintendent to include.
Great.
Is that all right? To Shar. Okay, thank you.
That's great.
Let's see. Oh, the other thing
It's for the strategic plan.
I forgot now what, I didn't write it down, so I forgot, but I think it probably has to do with the funding sources and with having bond and Russian budgets come to us. And when we do have expenditures from the Russian budget, even if it's something that we've already approved, I think it would be helpful for the board to have an updated spreadsheet that shows us where we are with that budget. And I think because the comment was made that we have to spend a certain amount of the Measure G money within an 18-month period of whatever it is, if we could look into that to make sure that we are on track with projects for next summer, that we're going to be spending the Measure G money within the allocated time. And along with that would go having a bond budget update for board approval. Okay.
And those are things we're working on.
Good. Okay, Superintendent?
I do have a little bit of an update relative to the question earlier about summer school. The only thing that I'm aware of is summer school adult ed is ESL and high school diploma, which is paid for by a state grant.
Oh, so we
that's the
do
only
have work
activity.
in the
Those are the
summer?
only two that I'm aware of.
No, that's fine. I was just thinking that maybe there was no classes in the summer, but it sounds like there are. Okay.
We had graduation. We had people that graduated from summer school.
So just wanted to clarify that. Other than that, I have
this is
nothing.
Adult ed, grad. Oh, yeah.
We had
That's
that.
right. But I don't know if they had classes in the summer.
I have nothing further on my comments. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.
All right. Thank you, guys.